Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode. I'm Michael Petrow, and joining me on the show this week is Oscar-nominated costume designer Luis Sequeria to talk about his work in Nightmare Alley. You may have heard of it. It's nominated for an Oscar this year for a few things, specifically costume design. We talk about how he got into making everybody look so goddamn good on screen. His mother was a big force in his early education with needle and thread. Then meeting Guillermo del Toro, working on The Shape of Water, that Oscar-winning film you may or may not have seen. And then teaming up with him again for Nightmare Alley, and just his love of what he loves about film, what he loves about costuming, talking about needle and thread for an hour and a half. This one, he's such a gem, you guys. He's such a talented fellow. I'm pretty sure the only reason he said yes was because he knew Patty Henderson and Heather Neal, who are also costume designers, all part of CAFTCAD, which is a Canadian alliance of costume designers and apprentices and breakdown artists. They showcase all the good work that's coming out of Canada on film these days. Pretty sure he said yes because he knew I'd talk to them. He's like, wow, this guy's not a crazy motherfucker, so I might as well give him a shot. Luis, thanks for the shot, man. Honestly, I can't wait to talk about the rest of the stuff you're working on. We're going to have this guy back, ladies and gentlemen, so you're in for a treat. So that's who's on the show. That's what's on the show. Get on our social media as this drops tonight, Thursday the 17th, St. Paddy's Day. Luck of the Irish to you. Happy St. Paddy's Day. You should subscribe to our social media because there's going to be a big drop. If by the time you listen to this and you haven't subscribed, well, go check it out because there's some there's a big information bomb coming about how to join the Debaterverse in the springtime. That's all I'm going to say right now because I want to build suspense like a movie. You get it. So subscribe to our social media is the point I'm mumbling through here. And as well, if you are new, if this is your first time listening to the show, stick around for an end credit trailer about how you too can stay in contact with the Debaterverse and get to know us, find out who we are. So without further ado, I give you Luis Sequeria. I'll shut the fuck up. I'll cue that reel, and you enjoy the show.
Let's tidy up this tangle of film by putting it on a reel. Here is a motion picture film, 1,000 feet, 16,000 separate photographs.
Welcome, everyone, to the official space section of the charter.
What's the truth? You can't handle the truth. Sir, you're out of order. Out of order. I show you out of order.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Reel Debaters production. You're in for a treat. It's just me today. No, I'm kidding. That would make you all run to the hills. I have an incredibly special guest on through talking with Patty Henderson and Heather Neal and through CAFTCAD. Luis Sequeria has said yes to being on the show. Costume designer who has just been nominated for an Oscar in his work in Nightmare Alley is on the other end of this Zoom call right now. Hello, Luis. How are you doing?
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm so happy to talk to you about this. We mentioned before we started recording that I made a promise to myself, and the first film that I saw to not watch a trailer was Nightmare Alley. And I didn't know it was a remake. I didn't know who was in it, actually. I knew who the top line was, but I had nothing to go on. And as soon as Bradley came on screen, I just looked over at my buddy and I was like, this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. That whole scene where he just kind of walks out of the house and lets the house on fire and gives you this, like, we're going into a world. This is a Guillermo world. We're going to have some fun. And I was just so blown away. And then when you said yes to talk to me about it, I was like, oh my God, Christmas came early. So before we get into that, I always make the joke that we like a good origin story here, like a Wolverine origin story. We'll make you like a Marvel superhero for the evening.
All right.
And, we don't know how you got to Nightmare Alley with knowing how you came to costuming, how you came to the film industry. So where did that start for you? Where does film world start for Luis?
I came from the fashion world, and I had a store on Queen West,
okay,
and I had a clothing line, and I was a young Canadian designer, and the store featured other Canadian designers, just in attempt to raise the profile of Canadian costume designers in kind of a market that really we weren't regarded as being of any value. So it was great, and I ran into a couple of people that were doing shopping for one of David Cronenberg's movies, and they came in and brought some stuff in for a fitting, took some stuff out for a fitting, pardon me, and came back, and I guess they were so impressed. I was 25. I had a clothing line. I had a store. I was
Who is this guy?
doing the production as well as the designing and in the factory. And they said, "Oh, you should try and get into work in film." And so, I mean, the thing about fashion in that time is you were working alone in a studio. I didn't have the money to hire people, so it was a very solitary thing. And so, film was kind of one of those things. Now, number one, they paid well. Number two, it was more of a group effort. We were all comrades, so to speak. And I was offered a visit to the set of Friday the 13th, series that called Friday's Curse. And I was kind of blown away walking into Curious Goods, and it was an old antique store, and it smelled like an antique store, and it had cobwebs, and and then the back end of the set was obviously all fake, and I was hooked, line and sink, line. How do you say that? Line and sinker?
Hook, line, sinker. But I screw this up all the time, man. So we'll fact check that. Listener, let us know.
So I applied to be a trainee, and I did a couple of trainee gigs, and the rest is kind of history. Really, I got into the industry. I worked every position in the department. Back then, we had a department of 3. I used to drive the wardrobe truck, which was the size of what Craft truck was a decade ago. And I learned how to do breakdown and aging. I learned, I knew I already how to sew. I did set. I did, basically I ran the gamut of the department. And then I designed for a few years. And
this is all in Toronto, I'm guessing.
Yeah, basically in Toronto. I've been fortunate to work abroad in South Africa, UK, West Coast, a little bit in the States, but predominantly in Toronto. And then I had the fortune really of assisting, once I had a big long career of designing, assisting some really incredible costume designers that came in from LA. And I keep saying that to young designers. It's like, don't knock it if you're offered. Take your designer hat off, be an assistant, and watch the process, and you will learn. Like, you cannot pay for that kind of insight. And so instrumental in my success was working with these people that then became my friends and colleagues. And to this day, I keep in touch with these people that we've grown very fond of each other.
That's awesome. I love that, like, you'd already kind of had a background in like a co-op, so to speak, when with your designer friends and opening up the studio and trying to pull your resources and make a thing for you guys. So working in collaboration with a unit was something that was already kind of natural for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly.
And every great says the same thing. They all say, like, it takes a village, right? And to your point of learning, like, I wouldn't have to book a forklift to bring my job off the floor to be able to stand and watch a director, like you're saying, the education that you can't pay for. You literally have to humble yourself before the project and just take it in.
Well, working with Julie Weiss and Daniel Orlandi, I mean, these are world-class designers with credits, that are remarkable. And seeing their process, being there with them in fittings, being with them in production meetings, it's just, it's a masterclass every day, and you're getting paid for it. And so I loved it. It was great.
When you stepped on set for this Friday series, what's your first memory of that? What's your first tactile or sense?
It was the smell.
Yeah,
the smell of the set. The set smelled like an antique store, and there was dust that was obviously done by special effects, but I remember it succinctly. It was just I'd done theater in school, and I, skipped class and hung out in the lighting booth and would fool around with lighting, and that was all cool. But this was next level. This was 3D theater, so to speak. And so, it really was about the beautiful set dressing of the space and the art direction. And I was fortunate to, not only have that tour, but work on that show for a couple of years and work my way up.
When you, oh shit, I lost my train of thought. I had a really good one too. That's okay. I got a whole list here.
No worries.
I remember. Okay. What was you get this set tour? Like, was it something? Oh, never mind. Let's go back to the one that popped into my brain. Doing these. There we go. Lightning struck my brain. When did you pick up the needle and thread? Is it always was it late in life? Was it something that you?
So, I mean, interestingly enough, my mom, mom made wedding dresses in Lisbon. She had an atelier with 12 ladies, and
wow.
She had sewn all her life, and she got fed up with it and decided to pack up and come to Canada for, promise, new world, new life.
Yeah.
But she always sewed at home. And so as a child, some of my earlier memories are being at her feet while she was sewing. And I used to play. She had glass beads in vials, all separated. And I was more into mixing them up, which drove her crazy. So I was into making, lines in the beakers. And so I've cut up a couple of her garments to make, I made a cape for my G.I. Joe doll. I mean, I've been at it for a while.
I found mine. Can I send them to you? I'll pay you. I'm totally down with you customizing a whole new line of my G.I. Joes.
Yeah, you got a great black cape. Unfortunately, my mom lost her skirt in the negotiation. She later said she didn't understand, why I would have gone into this industry, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I mean, it was pretty part of the fabric of my life as a young kid. My mom, would make travel outfits. We had safari 70s matching outfits, which I will not put online because I just do not want that to be out in the world, but pretty cute.
You don't want that on your IMDb page? Is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
You don't want that on your IMDb page?
No. Good as a memory, not good as a image.
I got to write that one down.
So to your question, I think it's always been around. And of course, being a young adult, I was into the glamour of fashion, and there was certainly something there to be said about that. But, as students here, you often sold this life that is pretty unattainable for most, which is this Armani lifestyle, and at that time Claude Montana and Terry Mugler and all that, very glamorous, and that's not going to be your reality in Toronto.
No,
and so
it's not Young and Dundas.
No. So there you go. So moving from that to film and television, I thought was wonderful. Moreover, now more so than ever, because it's recorded, and so it's going to be there beyond my days. And there's something that I find soothing to my soul about that. That it will be, when you look at these movies now that are 80 years old, everyone has passed, but their work is still there and being appreciated, and that, I guess, they've left their mark, and I hope to leave my mark.
Oh, I think you'll leave more than one. That's just a layman over here fan. When did you feel? Because I always like to talk about, and I've talked about how this whole show, this journey thing was an idea of I'm going to try to do this. Well, it didn't work out. Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Because, you hear every director say, just buy a camera and shoot it. Now you're a director, right? Buy some fabric, learn how to sew, put something together. That doesn't make you a costume designer, but it starts the process nonetheless. So fraud syndrome is always a thing that I struggle with. Personally, show-wise, professionally, whatever, because the fake it till you make it thing, I think I took that maybe a little too literally as a child. Point is, when did you feel that you were part of the industry? When did you feel that you'd arrived? Not made it, because you're still young and you've still got a career ahead of you, and I'm sure you've got dreams and things that we haven't even seen yet come out of your mind. But when did you start to feel that you could walk in step as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 behind?
I think about I would say about 11 years ago. I think the first time I was nominated for being Erica, doing that show was a marker for me, because I'd done a lot of, stunt stuff, and it wasn't really styly. It wasn't really fashiony. And here I was able to flex my fashion side, with incredible leading ladies, dressed with a comedy edge, which was kind of nice. There's comedy costuming and drama costuming. And so I think when I got nominated for that show, that was when I went, okay, this feels like this is gonna be okay. And then, it's with each film. I say each film prepares you for the next, and the cumulative experience. I couldn't do Nightmare Alley 5 years ago. I couldn't do it, 3 years ago. I mean, I could, but it wouldn't be what I think it is. And so every project brings you another piece of the puzzle, gives you another layer to that intensity of your work, to be able to bring the best thing forward.
Yeah, no, that's that's super self-aware of yourself, lack of a better word, to be able to go, no, not yet. I want to, and I'll get there, but to look back and be like, yeah, no, Lewis 3 years ago, not ready for this yet. We had other challenges 3 years ago. I had other challenges 4 years ago. I had other challenges, like, serious challenges, and they were met with the best we could do, and we did well and all that. But I find it interesting, that tortoise hair thing happens early in a career, and I was really caught in that. And then at some point I just stopped looking sideways and just focused forward, because it, sometimes you rise really quickly and you will fall as quick. So my journey's been long, but I've been super happy with that pace. Your career is over television and film. What are some of the differences for us laymen's out there, where you, like, pros and cons? Because the Strain was where you and Guillermo met, I believe, if I'm correct on that. And
no, I met him at a fitting with Jessica Chastain during Mama.
Damn Wikipedia.
Where he executive produced. But it was the first time we really kind of worked together was the Strain. Yes.
Okay, so half right. I'll give myself a point.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
I'm a talker, not a researcher. So I'm fine being wrong in public. But you've done both. So my question is what are some of the pros and cons? Like, is there a faster pace that costuming has to come with television, because it is blocked, and filming is you might have more time because it's over the course of 6 months, a year, 2 years, sometimes, depending.
No, I mean, obviously that is precisely part of the differences, is the time frame, and the quickness in which one needs to get your costumes done. I always think that a series is like hamster wheel. 20 minutes of cardio followed by another 20 minutes of cardio followed by another 20 minutes of cardio. And so you are literally shooting an episode and prepping another one at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so that makes it, you are on set, establishing, coming back for a production meeting, fitting, doing fittings. It is quite intense. We're a feature. You might have more to do. You might have a bigger wave, but it's one story. In this case, in this movie, it was two, but generally you have one story, and you just ride that story as you're shooting. It's all, again, due to schedule, but TV is just fast paced, and you have to make quick decisions. And it was, that kind of experience for me was amazing, because I made, thousands of decisions that I learned how to do quickly, and learned how to logic puzzle them out, doing pros, cons, and what could go wrong, and then that really helped in the feature, where you can kind of envision things earlier. Because I think that's the biggest thing for me that I've noticed is making those decisions in March that are going to screw you in May. Right? And so you really have to, I have to quantify my decision and think it out, and make sure that it's a true decision, the best decision for this now and in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I know when I get to sit and pull the taffy on an episode, and by no means am I comparing, but just having some time to be creative and find the spots and edit and all that stuff. Whereas it seems like it's triage versus plastic surgery, right? Like, you get to, you make a decision, make it quick, gotta go. And then let's create, let's sculpt, let's pull the taffy again and see how much we can get out of this.
Well, I joke with my crew sometimes that, I'm not a designer, I'm a decider, because I have to make, 50, 70, 100 decisions a day. And that could be as mundane or boring as a top stitch width, buttons, deciding what jewelry that I want to bring in. I mean, it's decision after, you get decision fatigue, I have to say. At some point, you're just like, I do not want to decide another thing.
I'd love to take you out for dinner after.
Nightmare Alley, I had 5 cutters and a tailor, and I had a whole army of breakdown people that were aging their costumes, and it was decision all like, it was like being in a walk-in clinic and going down the room from one cutter to the next, and making those decisions. I mean, first world problems, love it.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not here kvetching. It's a good thing, but intense.
Yeah, no, it's just a certain type of brain, and having to do that left brain, right brain, where you're decision making and creating at the same time, like that. I can imagine how you'd be so fatigued, where, I'd take you out to dinner and you're like, order everything. I don't want to make a decision.
It's true. Or I'll have the same.
Yeah.
I'll have what I had last time, which is the same with getting up in the morning and putting the same kind of uniform on as well, again, because you just got home at 2 a.m. and you're up at 5 to be on set again at 7. So it's all about managing what you can do, and then taking a break when you're not working.
Over the course of your career, I'm sure your inspirations have changed from when you first started and who inspired you to now, and maybe even having had a chance to work with some of those people and learn from some of those people. So I guess, who inspires you now, and who inspired you when you were younger?
Oh, that's an interesting, I think when I was younger, I was inspired more by the glamour of everything. Everything was about the glamour. And I think as a youth or a young person, that's really kind of where most of us land. Now it's really about the art. It's about the storytelling. It's about the being a brush. I always say, like, I'm a brush for the director. I'm bringing my paint, my medium to his painting. And so I really enjoy that process. I enjoy the process of, thinking. Again, I always say I think more about the costumes than anybody on the project. Director doesn't think about the costumes as much as I do. I'm always thinking about everything to do with the costumes. And so I really dig that. I dig the world building. I love the creating characters, changing someone from plain to fantastic, changing someone from fantastic to plane. It's really kind of great. And again, back to it gets recorded and we can all look at it and enjoy it.
As like I understand the actor's plight of it's weird to watch yourself. I can't even imagine with Nick Cage's new film where he's playing himself, like how meta that must just get for an actor, right? But yours, fashion is art. High end, low end, whatever. It's art, and it flows, and it tells a story, and it expresses who you are. It's in Forrest Gump. You can tell a lot about a person by their shoes, where they go and where they've been.
Yes.
And we already have a conversation by what we put on with the general world. So your stuff sits in infamy, like you say, which is amazing. You will be the Greek god stories. Your department, the costumers, will be talked on forever and be like, look at the palette they put on the screen for us. Is it weird to watch your stuff though? And do you stop critiquing it once it gets like, is there a point where you with any being Erica, like, can you let go at a point and just be like, all right, that's enough, and then enjoy it after? Or are you like an actor still?
For sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
I think, you go from enjoing it to then maybe making sure you're not going to cringe 15 years later when you see what you put someone in. But I think even Nightmare Alley at the third watching, I had let go of all my kind of angst about little things that, I don't think many people notice, and enjoy the beauty that was put forth. I mean, there was so much love from Tamara, the production designer, Dan Lauston, the DOP, who is incredible. By the way, comes also from fashion. And so it's kind of interesting because everything is just so beautiful. Cleona Fury and Joanne McNeil, the hair and makeup team. I mean, we all just poured a lot of love. So there's a synergy there, and that doesn't come together very often. So I think we can look at it and be proud of it. Now, if you ask me to look at this interview, I will not be able to watch myself because I'll be like, that doesn't sound like me. God, is that what I look like? All of that. But the work is the work, and I think I can look at it with great admiration.
Yeah, you should. Well, it's beautiful. Like I look at Nightmare Alley and I like the production design and the makeup. Like it all is a dance in this film. Like I've watched stuff and like I'm just a fan. I'm a cinephile. I'm a movie nerd. I have no professional training in anything. This is just all heart, no skill. So when I start to look at these things and see them, I really look at them because I now I want to know how the sausage is made more than sometimes how good the sausage tastes. And
right.
With this, it seemed like you guys were all in very tandem because you were like, well, if the room looks like this, then they have to look like this. And if they look like this, then their jewelry should be like this. Their accent should be this. Like it all just popped. And in other movies where I've seen, it's like great costume, but it's not in sync with the other aspects of the film. Is that safe to say that in this movie, you guys were like, well, if Bradley's wearing this, then this shouldn't be the couch or this shouldn't be the backdrop. Like am I talking shit?
I think for sure there's communication between Shane View and Tamara in regards to the interior colors and the sheets and the bedspreads and the sofa color and the paint and the wood color and they would bring all the samples to the costume department. We had a wall of all the sample colors. And again, we're painting, right? We're painting with our own brushes, and so that was really integral to the process. And then it really was about lighting and understanding the use of light, the tone of that light, the absence of the light, and for Lilith's office, there was a very little light at times, and a lot of the fabrics I wanted them to be able to reflect what little light was there. So the satin, the silk satins, and the pebble suitings were paramount, and that all came really together in a kind of organic way, I went to Rome and Madrid and London and New York and just started collecting fabrics that I thought were beautiful and thought that they could work for Lilith or for Molly or for Stan, or and started creating a library. You know, I had a wall of tags that represented every bolt in the shop, and I just start to play with these fabrics to come up with the combinations, and then of course run them past Tamara and Dan, and you know, get the blessing on a lighting level and on an interior level, and that's why I think it does look and feel so cohesive.
Oh,
I ramble on, sir. Dude,
no,
sorry.
no, that's the point. I'm supposed to be quiet. You have the interesting things to say. This is how this works, sir.
Right.
No, we're on it. I don't want to. I'm not gonna play cat and mouse with the audience here. Like, we know Shape of Water, beautiful film, beautiful work you did on it. Like it's and we'll get into that at the end. Because I want to talk about this and it's so fresh on my mind. How does this happen? How do you find yourself working with Guillermo again for Nightmare? Where were you? What was going on?
I was in Australia doing a post-apocalyptic comedy monster apocalypse thing called Love and Monsters.
Great movie. Great movie. I saw it. I loved it.
Fun, right?
Yeah.
It was fun. So we were just about 2 weeks away from completing that, and Miles Dale, the producer from Shape of Water and someone who I've actually worked since my first job on Friday the 13th, on and off. We've worked together for over 34 years. He called me and said, listen, I just want to let you know we're going to do this movie, and it's a remake. It'll be different than the original, and we'd love to have you. And can you start in 3 weeks? And I was like, well, I'm, finishing off, and I was planning a week of a vacation, so I guess I can come back and start. So that's really how it came about. And we were super excited. Love and Monsters was a tough shoot, and we were implants, so to speak, and so it was great to kind of come home to family, people that we were used to working with.
That's great. I love stories like that where it's like, okay, cool, let's just do it, right? Because it's once in a life. They're all once in a lifetime, but you don't know that until you're done it, which is why it's so hard to say no. Okay, so you get the call. Now, what's your process in general? And then we'll apply that to how this works. Like you said, you went to Rome and Madrid, and like, was it just as soon as you got the gig, you went shopping and you played, or had that already been happening and you were just well
no,
planned?
I think we'd had a quick meeting, and I had done some preliminary research with various rental houses in North America, and everybody was fresh out of our period because Mank was prepping and had taken a lion's share. And then what is the series that is also now set in the 30s?
Peaky Blinders?
Used to be in the 70s. Anyway, there was another series that'll come to me while we're talking.
Sure.
And they also had kind of taken most of the clothing, and even in Toronto, some of our rental houses had been shipping out of town. So that was troubling. And talking to Guillermo, I said we better look elsewhere. And he said, well, I really love the costumes in Spain. He had done Devil's Backbone in Spain, and so why don't you look there? I'm like, well, I'll look there, I'll look in Rome, I'll look in the UK. And so that's where that whole idea came from. And while I was there, I did the fabrics purchasing and the accessories and the flea markets and the vintage suppliers, and crazy button supplier Madrid that has been there since 1825, and like just remarkable new contacts that I had not obviously had not worked there, and so this was a whole new thing. And I think the movie in itself has a unique look because these are the costumes that don't really come over to North America very often. And so I was thrilled. You know, we went to Torelli and Anamode in Italy, and Cosprop and Academy in the UK, and Manzi and Paris, and Paris costumes in Cornejo, which are like, you know, Cornejo's been in business for 100 years almost. So these were remarkable rental houses that I was able to pull from, and pull physically, looking through all these wonderful garments. And even if they weren't right for me, I still got the cock the eye on them. I mean, talk about, again, decisions. That was like speed dating on crack. It was just, you know, dress. But it was great. You know, it was a remarkable journey. So that was that part. And then the research, obviously, concurrently with that, we were doing research and collecting imagery. And I have a library that I have been collecting catalogs and photojournalism and portraits, and I have a digital library that, you know, I collect images for shits and giggles. And so it was really about putting all that together into what ended up being a 5-volume binder, 3-inch binder of images that we pulled from to create the character boards and the background boards, and again, informing, you know, a means to communicate with Guillermo as to likes, dislikes, and then also communicate to the rest of the team. You know, we see a board of the carnival life, and then from that, everybody, you know, the people that are dressing the extras, the people that are assisting the people who are dressing the extras can see it, the actors. I mean, it's the research is obviously just so important.
Oh, it's like these Bradley suits are those custom cut?
Oh yeah.
From my
I mean,
God,
we
man.
built about 90% of the clothing on the film. So, you know, the city stuff. I mean, I'll start with the carnival. The carnival, we had a lot of rain. So for all those characters, we couldn't possibly use real vintage clothing and go through, you know, a day or two of rain, because those clothes would have disintegrated. So we had to build all those clothes in multiples, then send them through the breakdown, aging textile artist wing, and they would age them to make them look like they were 20 years old, as they do, like they're little magicians. And and that was, you know, each of those day players had 10 changes, and we would work out the various looks for them.
I want to stop you if I could just stop you there for a second, because there's a point that I read that what's making one film with one story, and you've got your base costumes, I would imagine. You had 2 stories you were telling in Nightmare Alley. You were telling a circus story, and you were telling post-circus with circus, like what the circus tricks are now doing out in big city life. What's that part like? Because, you know, when, and I mean, I'll throw, like, you make Captain America's costume, make 10 of them, you're done, right? Like, it's not going to, his story doesn't change. It's either Steve Rogers or Captain America, but you've got Bradley Cooper as a drifter, then as a circus performer, then as a con man and a mentalist. Like, his voyage, each character goes through all of those things. So you're a busy man.
It's true. I mean, and that's with when we did the city part of the film, everything had to feel like it was fresh. I mean, that was the difference between the one end of the movie and the other. And so clothing that is 80 years old is just it's not fresh. And so everything had to be made for all of our characters. And so it was great. I mean, we built suits and lingerie and ties and overcoats, and we had hats made and shoes, and you name it. We had it made, and that was great. Again, designing little collections for each of these characters was thrilling.
And like they all, like Toni Collette's. Tell me about that. Tell me about her dress. Like when we first meet her, and she's and they do the flashback with her doing the mentalist bit, and just that gown that she's wearing. Where did that come from?
So we built that, and we built it, and I designed it for it to have a quick release, so that it was basically everybody that was in the carnival had a carnival outfit, and all of them had some form of quick release, some form of quick takeoff, because that's the whole thing. It's theater, so you had to, like, you were selling brochures and going around the back and throwing something on, and then you're on. So with her, we built that, and then we had the robe, which there was a robe that we liked, but we needed to augment it, and we just built it and had the embroidery done in India. We sent the robe in pieces and had them do the bouillon embroidery.
Wow.
And in fact, we sent funny stories. We sent the first one, and it never cleared customs in India, so we had to cut another one. And this was involved. We had to lay out, the whole design was laid out on the cloth and precisely where we needed it to be. And we had to send a second one, and got the second one back.
Oh man.
5 weeks later, and the original we never saw. It just got stuck in customs. So we built that, and then of course we aged it, and we made it look like it was in a trunk for the last 20 years. And I think the beauty of that kind of whole look was that quick release, and seeing a whole other costume underneath, and the nonchalantness that Toni had with it was kind of great. She had a great accent, and a lovely human being. I can't speak highly enough. In fact, all the actors were incredible. It really was, I could die tomorrow and have had the time of my life working with this group of incredible talent. I was
going to get into that. Great segue, sir. It's an actor's film. Working with Guillermo, like you'd mentioned world building. Like, we'll start with him. What does he let you go and then you come back, or does he give specific instructions? Like, what was his headspace shared with you when you guys were back and forthing with this? Because you've got your departments and whatnot, but when it came down to it,
I mean, so Guillermo would spend a lot of time with the production designer doing location scouts and whatnot. So we would have our meetings, and he would he did have some very specific color palettes, and wanting certain things for each character. And then I would take that and come back with the mood boards, in which he would say, I like that, I don't like that. And then we would go from there. And then we would start building some prototypes. And luckily, this project, we also, our producer, Miles Dale, was well aware that the success of it was to have our actors come in early. And so we had them all come in early, and we were able to try some pieces on and really understand their proportion, have their exact measurements. I mean, it was key to the success of the costuming. And so that was really how it happened. And then Guillermo would come in and be part of that fitting and see things come together. And that is pretty exciting when you're doing that. And Bradley walks in, and then 45 minutes later, Bradley's Stan, and the excitement becomes infectious, really, between Guillermo and Bradley, myself, and the team.
Yeah, it shows, because it just there's always that zhuzh right? That je ne sais quoi, that untangible, untouchable, undescribable thing that you get from a movie. And I think that's what happens. I think that's the exact moment when you all get together and all these things pop and they all just happen. And it is fun because you're carrying the load together. You're sharing this idea and creating this world. Out of all of your pieces, which one are you married to the most from the film? How hard was it to give up? Is it maybe in a trunk? It's going to be in there for 20 years in your house. Nobody knows about it. We're breaking the story here.
Unfortunately, the studio keeps everything.
I know.
So that's the unfortunate, sad part. I just get swatches.
Come on.
Little memory. That's a tough one. I mean, they're
all your babies.
So many things, right? So, I think Kate's black suit was beautiful. I think the dress, the shadow dress, I call it, where we see her just for a moment at the beginning, was really one of my favorite pieces. And I was deciding which dress to wear for what, which dress will she wear for which occasion, and it could have gone the other way, and then the other dress would have been a shadow dress. But the shadow dress was wonderful. It was velvet with little copper, I want to say oval zigzag motif. And so it just glinted in light, which I kind of laughed because here it was in the shadows. There are really so many pieces. Pete's leather jacket, which was from, the teens. And we reproduced it and modified it for David Strathairn. That was pretty fantastic. I think what's great too is when the actors say, "Hey, this is pretty great." Kate at one point, dressed at the Copa, turned to me before she went out. She goes, "Mr. Sequeria, this is a damn fine frock." And I was like, "Thank you so much." That you take to the grave. So there you go.
It's a damn fine frock, sir, for sure. Are we talking when we first introduced her, when she calls out Bradley for his nonsense? Is that the dress you're referring to?
So that's the cape dress. No, it's one where she's kind of sitting in the back. She's just watching.
Okay.
I think the screen time on that dress is about 30 seconds. It took probably 3 weeks to make. And hundreds of hours of labor, but yes, it's quite a great dress. But I love the cape dress too. The cape dress was great color.
There's a moment where I looked over at my buddy and was like, "That's your Marilyn shot right there. The lighting, the outfit, like she just was this golden age of cinema starlet that I had no words for. I was like, that is one of the most beautiful images I've ever seen in moving pictures. And
yes.
She,
Kate epitomizes glamour and, just the way she moves, the way she acts, the way she exudes. It's, she was it. She was film noir in a little bonbon. That was it.
With Ron Perlman, Cooper, Defoe, is it Stram? I never pronounce his name correctly. David Strathairn. Thank you. Oh, that ends a streak. Toni
Collette.
Oh, that one we can edit out of the show. I got name Simers. Kate just seems by default amazing to work with. Like in regards, like her as Katharine Hepburn in The Aviator, like just that regal sense of, and then Hela in Thor, right? You're just like same person. Wow, what a range. But the gentlemen that you got the chance to work with, were they part of the process at all? Like, are you taking any sort of ideas that they have and running with them, or are you back and forthing it? Like, is it just a compartmentalized scenario?
Listen, here's the thing. I am not Mussolini. I'm not a tyrant. This is a collaborative
yes
medium, and so I always say that it's like the Bible. There's before the actor comes and after the actor comes. And so we all have this concept we go with. We all move towards that concept. And when the actor comes and we actually see and feel and put on, things shift. And they usually shift for the better, obviously. And I always give the actor the respect, and obviously they have also thought about their character. I've thought about their clothing, and they've thought about their character, and so we work things out. And so for me, it really is, again, that's what the excitement becomes when we're working on the character from a clothing perspective. And I'm always open to suggestions and even total about faces. It wasn't this movie that happened, but it happens where everyone's like, oh yeah, that character should wear black and it should be thin and blah, blah, blah. And then the actor shows up and is like, oh, I really want to wear white. And you're like, okay, well, how about gray? So I think
well done.
I think that's the beauty of this industry. That's the beauty of filmmaking. That's the beauty of why I'm in this, is that it is all mutual respect and collaborative.
Yeah, no, I wonder, because direction, lighting, camera, all that stuff, the costume is so intimate with the character. I don't want to sound like I'm denouncing every other department, but the tangible aspect, what you see, what you remember, what us nerds over here argue constantly and remember and hold so close because of people like you who make these things. I just always wonder, do they end up going like, hey, listen, I was thinking about this last night, and how much fun that must be for you, because now it's a team journey. Now you get to go back to your team and be like, okay, so they're involved. Like, that just must be so much fun. And
it is. I mean, here's something Guillermo's said to me many years ago, and I always thought about, it's rang true to me, is that we might have the most beautiful set, and it is beautiful, but the minute we go into a close-up, it's all about what's here. It's the collar, it's the detail on the shoulder, it's the choice of jewelry. I think we've all seen pictures or TV shows where you come in and all of a sudden you're like, what is that bouncing beside that? For instance, the actor likes to talk a lot with their head, and so you're not going to put a dangle jewel, because that thing's just going to be. So these are all things that, again, having had some experience and some, you make those choice things, and as you go in for a close-up, you can notice the beautifully crafted earring that someone could be wearing, or someone picks up a letter and you see the gorgeous cufflink. That's really what it was all about for me. It was not only building all those beautiful clothes, but it's finding all those amazing accessories that I had at my fingertips to bring and place in the film.
Do I remember a pocket watch?
Yes, that would be props. That would be our props master, his job.
Did you have anything to do with picking that watch to match that lovely suit of his, or was that all props?
No, that would be props.
Okay.
Chris Geggy, who's a wonderful props person, has been around almost as long as the earth is cooled as I have, and
hey, now
he's exceptional. And he was actually someone that was working on the David Cronenberg film that I had some clothing pulled for a fitting. So this is like, this is full circle.
Your paths have collided,
kind of thing.
We've been talking about all the happy stuff, and like you were saying, like everything can be intense and it can be crazy, and it's all the romance we're talking about right now. What character did you have a challenge with their costume? Was there anybody that really kind of just made you have to put in some extra hours or think a little bit harder on how to come up with a concept for them?
Well, I think one thing that was tricky every job you put on your rose-tinted glasses after you're done, and it's like, oh, that was the best job ever, and you forget all that.
That's why I asked it.
The trauma, but no, I think one thing that was tricky for me on this show was that Rooney was with child, and so luckily the timing worked out that she was able to have her child during our downtime through the pandemic.
Yay!
But it did cause us a little duress on the return to match some of the wardrobe, and also, we shot the circus performance, and she was 6 weeks postpartum. So, I mean, she looked pretty great for just having had a baby, and she was basically in a two-piece performance outfit, and so. But there was a little creative designing and work that we put into that. I would say that was kind of tricky. And then the freaks, the freaks that we didn't really get to see, like the bird girl.
Yeah.
The cannonball man, all these unique bodies and unique costuming, and a lot of time went into those, and not only for the performance, but creating their closets, the closets of their everyday. What does Bird Girl wear for breakfast?
That's a great question. That's the question of 2022.
And what does Dog Boy wear to
dinner?
Hang out. So, those were kind of fun, challenging, sideshow, so to speak, because we still had all the lead characters that we were dealing with.
Yeah.
But that I would say that was challenging. I mean, just physically making these clothes, working on evening wear while we're prepping carnival stuff, and really switching one's brain from one to the other, and then sometimes like concurrently pulling fabrics for both, and it was tricky. It was really tricky.
Yeah, your whole everything that you gave to these characters, I walked out of there and I was like, see. Like I started doing a Cagney and Lacey impression, because it just infected me. I was like, I want to dress like Bradley Cooper, and I'm a movie nerd. I got t-shirts, jeans that are all from Star Wars and every 80s cartoon known to man. I am not high fashion by any means, but your clothing made me want to wear it and feel like a better person.
Well, that's amazing. I've had, a couple of wild sideline, text messages wondering where they can get those suits. Like, is there anywhere that's making those suits, or where did that tie come from? And it's, sometimes we've made the tie, like we made those ties.
Yeah.
We made the suits. And so, I mean, that's amazing when someone can say, I love that. I want to wear that. What can I say? It's you've done a good job. And also something that supports the character and doesn't pull away from the story. It's not like so crazy that you're going, wow, that's amazing, I like it, but that's my goal is always to support the story and never allow the viewer to pull away, or be distracted by a choice. Again, you're doing a comedy, that's a different story.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
With this kind of story, this film, it really is about building this cohesive experience.
I can't. We can sit here all day and do this, and there's some other stuff I want to talk to you about, because this is a treat alone just to know, because like I said, that movie made me go, do not watch the trailer ever again. This is how much fun you will have in a film. It felt like a 12-year-old being at the movie theater again, and just having all that, and I came out of that theater and I was a little sad, because I was like, that world's more fun than this world. And
that's sweet. That's sweet.
It's true, man.
Well, I think that's awesome. I don't know many people that will go to a film and not have seen a trailer. I think I commend you for that. I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you, sir. Takes a lot of work.
I personally love the international trailer. I thought the international trailer was remarkable. It really kind of gave you a true sense of the picture. And I've yet to see the black and white. I mean, that's
right?
a whole other thing.
Right? I heard about that on Kevin Smith on his show was talking about this. He's raving about it too. He was like, watch this fucking movie. It's the best fucking movie ever made in 2021. And I'd already seen it, so I was like, whatever, I know you're right. But I heard him talk about how there's this black and white version. I was like, oh, he's got some Zack Snyder in him wanting to do a black and white version of this. And it's going to be on HBO Max. I imagine they will release both. The black and white.
I think so. I mean, I think currently right now the black and white is a little bit of a special, limited release. But I would imagine down the road, it will come out. Interestingly enough, Shape of Water originally was supposed to be black and white.
Really?
Which now you're like, what? So absolutely, that's kind of crazy because the tones in that film were so important.
Oh,
but yeah. When we started. We were planning to do that black and white.
I am so happy it didn't happen. That movie is a prime example of allegory and talking about subjects that on the nose might be hard to talk about, but using that story to have them is a lot easier to have that conversation.
That's what Guillermo likes to do, right? I mean, there's always a message in his movies, and I would say that. For me, having seen all his films, I love the way that he picks you up, takes you on a journey, shakes you a couple of times, makes sure that you're fully aware of life's brutal aspects.
Yes,
and then very often just kind of sets you back down, and it's really a journey. And Devil's Backbone. Have you ever seen Devil's Backbone?
Unfortunately not. I've been.
So, I say get have a look, find it, watch it. It is beautiful, and that epitomizes what I regard Guillermo's masterpiece, in the sense that it's always about lifting you, taking you on a journey, making you face something, and then letting you go to really kind of take what you've learned into your life moving forward.
Yeah, no, he's easily one of my favorite filmmakers. And then he steps away and does stuff like Hellboy and Pacific Rim, and you're just like, huh? Like, what? Okay, do it, because the way you build a world, it doesn't matter what it is. You're going into it. He's not letting you stay on your side of the screen for long. And when you
but there's a youthfulness to his.
Yes.
I mean, those films have a great kind of very youthful, adventurous kind of quality, and so that is like a different kind of ride, right?
Yeah, no, and that's his palette, as you were saying, to painting with what you have with fabrics and thread and imagery. Like, that's him being like, all right, I'm going to paint this way today, I'm going to paint that way today, and having both in my toolbox makes me a better filmmaker.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I think, and we were talking about this before, and I wanted to bring it up again because I've interviewed two other people from this group called CAFTCAD. What does that stand for, sir? Because I will screw it up, just like Toni Collette's name.
The Canadian Association of Film and Television Costume Arts and Design.
Tell him what he's won, Bob.
Canadian Alliance.
I've had the chance to talk to Heather Neal. I've had the chance to talk to Patty Henderson, and both of them have mentioned. Actually, Heather was the reason why we're trying to get something going for a bunch of other costume designers from CAFTCAD, and really get this out as much as we possibly can, because it's a fantastic group. But you're part of the inception of that group, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, you were there at the beginning.
Yeah, I think there were about 11 of us that got together, and this all was brought forward really by a union issue that we were having, some representation issues. And as Canadians, again, this is kind of a running theme now, we weren't being taken seriously. And so we wanted to be able to have a means to communicate with each other. Before that, there were 2 unions in Toronto, and they did not really speak to each other. We were very segmented, rivals, so to speak, and not in a bad way, but we just didn't know each other. We were very separated, and so this was a means to kind of become a community, regardless of your union affiliation, and that's part of the mandate. And so I was one of the founding members, who, penciled the mandate and did the logo. I designed that logo, the seal and the Judy, and was actually the first president of the organization for 3 years. So it means a lot to me. And the whole industry has changed, I think, because of it. It has opened up to become a real community. And it is now across Canada, which is amazing, because again, the same thing, East Coast, West Coast, very divisive, and now it's not. And so I think the end game to this is that a united front of Canadians, and welcoming our brethren from the South, and from everywhere else in the world. I think it's just celebrating costume arts, and not just the designer, because again, like, we as designers, we can design, but it takes more than a village. It takes a small metropolis sometimes. And if it wasn't for the keen eye of my fabric buyer, or my accessory buyer, or the artistry of my textile artists, that patina would not be there. We would get there. We'd do it 6 times, but we would get there. And again, with my cutters, the experience and talent. So really, CAFTCAD was about celebrating all the various positions and various what's the word? The various disciplines that bring together what costuming is.
It's as I've been studying about it and getting to know more about it, so I know what I'm fucking talking about. I noticed that it's very big on your department as a whole, all the positions, celebrating all of the things, because you can be a showrunner and have 3 shows at the same time, but you're going to go absolutely crazy. And I imagine that your department, probably the same thing could happen if one of you did it, I'm sure, but like you said, it would take 6 times. So to not have all of these different positions recognized on the website would be an absolute sin. So who are some of these people that you were mentioning that you have, these cutters and these, like, who's part of your team that deserves a shout out?
I've got wonderful people. Lorraine Lightfoot is an incredible cutter and milliner, who's worked now with me on a few occasions, including Nightmare Alley and Cabinet of Curiosities, which we just finished. Tamio Tomohiro is my first-hand cutter, who I have known since I was 18 and has been cutting for me either in fashion or in film since back then. And we are basically family. I had a wonderful cutter, tailor, Phil Aiken, and he's Atfield. He's amazing. He did Bradley's tails and all of Bradley's suits.
Those tails. Those
enough,
tails.
We had 1939 original suits that were issued with the government stamps still stuck in them, never been worn, and we used those. They were gifted to me by some kind people in the UK. And we used those to model Bradley's suits, and he was able to do that. And then I had Carla. Oh my God.
We can edit all
Carla,
of this.
I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And Ahmed. And then amazing sewers that were instrumental in bringing those. And then there's Carla Migliardi, who was an amazing cutter that was also instrumental. She cut Molly's butterfly dress and her evening coat. So yeah, really incredible people. And then aging and dying, Melanie Turcotte was our key for the city, and Megan Anchetta was our key for the carnival. And then we had our other key was Tamara Funk, who did most of the dyeing. So yeah, and then incredible shoppers and assistants, and Sarah Schilk did the fabrics, and Anita Bachik was one of our shoppers, and Natalie Giselle, and Jesus, I should have my crew list out.
Well, see here, you know what I'm doing for you here is I'm just getting you ready for your acceptance speech.
Oh Lordy, and her and her and her and her and him.
I know it's gonna happen.
So,
okay, you know what? I don't want to jinx it.
Basically, a small army,
Yeah.
were instrumental. All brought the same passion that I have for the craft.
Well, and
that's why it works.
And we all know, we see the names, but like I want to talk about the names. These are people. These like it's. My sole mission is to not expose what happens behind the scenes, but it's like, no, just to understand how many hands get into each department and how many people there are that do all these amazing things. Like there are lots and lots and lots of people. So that's why.
Well, Lorene Lightfoot was a cutter on Road to Avonlea. So,
Jesus,
like
that's one of my favorite,
incredible history, Canadian filmmaking history. These are people that, they're incredible.
They're all over the screen for the last 50 years by the sounds of it.
Totally.
With what I want to
really, really lucky and blessed to have such a stellar team. Sylvie Bonnier was instrumental in doing the Bird Girl and a lot of the odd MacGyver kind of things. That kind of person that can think outside the box and really think a lot about that stuff when I don't have the time. So these are all the important bits of the puzzle, So when you get an interview and people are like, oh, it's like to dress Kate Blanchett, I'm like, it's great, but that's there. That's Tamio did the suit for Kate Blanchett. It's beautiful, but there is a whole other side to the movie and movie making and costuming.
What where would you not like what was something from CAFTCAD that you carry with you? Because that's kind of what I also wanted to find out, was like it for the up and coming costume designer, for somebody out there who has aspirations, might be a little shy, doesn't know how, but hey, listen, this might be a place where I could have this conversation. What comes out of CAFTCAD once you become a member? Like, what do you have access to that helps your craft, that helps your career?
Well, interestingly enough, we have something, which is the CAFTCAD Google group, which I've noticed is not that active. And I think we've lost the essence of what that was all about. And the Google group was in place to have a hive mind. So you have 300 members and you have a problem. And, I need to find 1930s knitwear help. And so you send this out and you have 300 people that are looking at the email, and by virtue of that kind of hive mind, someone's going to come up, or a few people are going to come up with some suggestions. I've noticed that that's kind of waned lately, and that might just be because it's not been done. But I think that was a really great aspect of this community again. Because before that, people used to hoard their contacts, right? You wouldn't give out your contact because someone might screw it and then you wouldn't be able to have it. And the reality is that those vendors, if you don't share their contact, they're not going to be around. They need the business.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's about sharing, contact sharing and resource sharing. And so I think, that's great. And also you have a problem, or I need to find an actor's measurement. Does anyone know, actor X, their measurements? I can't get a hold of their agent or somewhere on a shoot out of range. And so that kind of a thing is really great. I think the resource library is great. The educational things, I mean, we started the CAFTCAD, which was teaching the basics of costuming to incoming people, was wonderful. We used to have the movie wardrobe sale before COVID.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Incredible. And something that I truly miss. Not only because you can grab stuff, but it's a nice way to kind of clean out your personal kit of stuff, and refresh. And so there's, and then the other thing that we used to do, which I don't think we've done a little bit, is the milestone series, where we have someone like Julie Weiss, who did things like Terms of Endearment and 12 Monkeys, and these are like, career costume designers come up and have a chat, and a very frank chat, designer to designer, with the group. I thought that was a great idea, and I think that's something that we need to bring back.
Totally.
That's really about the insight. It's about the sharing and the insight of experienced to not so experienced, bridging that gap.
It seems that the industry is, maybe due to COVID, maybe due to a lot of things that have turned the industry on its head, where it's like, no, you know what? Like it's not about stardom. It's about the work. It's about the craft. It's about sharing the ideas. And I'm so grateful for that, because I love to know how all this stuff goes. But it just seems that is now starting to be a change in a lot of aspects. Or is that just me as an outsider? And I'm happy that you said yes.
No, I think, that is precisely it. It's all about the community and sharing things. And so, 20 years or even 10 years ago, I wouldn't say where I went. Where did I go? Oh, I went to places, but now it's like, yeah, I want the rental house in Madrid to get business. I want, people to know about Torelli, that it's not only knowing about them, because most of us do, but knowing that it's attainable, and you don't need to go there. You can work with them online and work out a way to get stuff from them. And at the end of the day, that community that we've created here is also a community that I have had limited but really wonderful experience in LA, with that community, and again in Europe. So costumers unite, that's what I say, all around the world. And as Julie Weiss, my good friend Julie Weiss, says, we got to tear down those borders in the costume world. And so I say there's no walls between countries when it comes to costume.
Thanks for opening the door to us and having a conversation with me about it too. Like I'm only going after people that I'm like, what did they do to do that? Like I'm being selfish. I'm not doing this for anybody else but myself. I pretend like it is for the listener, but no, it's really about like, oh, that's awesome. Because I'm attached to it. You've invoked an emotion in me. You made me talk about it for 2 hours. You made me review it on the show and tell everybody in their damn panda to go see it. Like it
well, it's awesome.
It's awesome work, sir. And I'm curious. Before I let you go, I'm going to throw you some puff questions, some easy ones, some ones that are actually just like straight up film nerd to film nerd. Dream job. Are they dead or are they alive? Who would you love to costume for? What director?
Denis Villeneuve would be amazing, obviously, but I'm sure he's got a long list of people that want to work with him.
Would you want to do
Almodovar?
Okay.
Almodovar would be incredible. Yeah, I'd say that those are our two top picks. Like
Villeneuve Blade Runner or Villeneuve Dune? Which one? Like
interesting. Is there a difference?
Not really, but okay. So we have intergalactic planets, aliens, space versus futuristic Earth, but still with clones and replicants. So it's not the same, but it's also not different.
I think what I love about his filmmaking is that he really allows it to envelop you. You have to invest your time. I mean, especially in this day and age with society and the,
Yep.
You really are, you sit down, you're going to be a while, and get ready. And so I think that's kind of wonderful. So I'm quite fond of him and his style of filmmaking.
Yes, it's very beautiful. It's very, I can walk in a room and be like, that's Dennis. Like, you just know, right? You can see one film and then you're like, what? And it's always different, but always the same. And it's, I love it. Cause he knows that he's taking 2.5 hours from you. And he's like, I'm going to give you something that will replace this 2.5 hours. It will be better. Trust me. It might not be there in the first act, but by the time we're through the third, you will have loved me. And
exactly,
it happens.
And at no time are you going to be like nodding out.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
Even in the valleys of his stuff, where it's a lot of dialogue and a lot of character development, you're just like, no, there's a reason for this, and you have to listen because it will come back. But because it's so beautiful, you get lost in watching the coloring and the aesthetics and the lighting and the choices that he makes. That a simple line of dialogue gets caught because you're like, fucking Blade Runner is the most beautiful piece of thing I've ever seen. Like, he tricks you. You're like, watch the birdie. But what's the last?
Oh, Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
One, Ridley Scott. I mean, talking about Blade Runner, I watched that movie, I think 23 times in the theater. I skipped more school watching that movie than anything else. So, there are a lot of great directors out there.
Yeah, no, they are. And they just have their style. So I'm curious, like, how you feel your choices and your hive mind and your creativity, like what you would want to see or play with, actually, more than that, just play make-believe and have a day at it. What's a movie, something that you've seen, doesn't have to be a movie, television show, what have you, that you saw something in the costuming that everybody should see, like, just whatever it is, doesn't matter.
So I watched The Electric Life of Louis Wayne, and I watched Kingsman.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Right. Ralph Fiennes.
Yes, The Kingsman. So those two movies, The Electric Life of Louis Wayne and The Kingsman, both incredible costume movies that redefine the way we look at period. Especially with The Electric Life. Incredible nuance work spanning a few decades, and remarkable shifts in color palette and fit and fabrics. It was really, I have to say I was nervous thinking that movie was going to be on the hit list for the Academy Awards. It was wonderful. And The Kingsman too was just really beautiful. Both, again, production design, costuming, DOP, direction. And that's the whole thing. Like, how many people put their heart and soul into projects and they just don't get that lift. And so, again, I'm uber thankful and humbled that this film was found to be worthy.
Well, I can assure you that we will all be cheering for you here, and I'm sure this is where you don't jinx it. So we'll be cheering for you. That's all I'm going to say.
Listen, you know what? It's about the journey. It's about the nomination at the end of the day. I don't know if one really wants the Oscar curse, which is when you get an Oscar, you don't work for 2 years. So I want to work. So I'm completely thankful to be able to say, 2-time Oscar nominated. I mean, that in itself is just insane. So is that me or is that someone else?
Yeah, I can imagine the trip that you're on right now.
Crazy.
I maybe fathom like a little bit of it, because like your work, like you said, your work will be remembered, and it is going to be like, if Shape of Water isn't in the archive, it's going to be, but I bet that this one will get there first, and I bet it won't take any time at all to be remembered as one of the best costume films of the 21st century. No,
crazy.
Sir.
That's crazy.
You're going to be what you look at when you go back to the 20s and the 30s. That's what you're going to be. I promise you that. I just feel it in my bones, because it's just got all of, it's got the zhuzh, as we were saying. Anyways, I've kept you far too long. Thank you so much. for your time.
Thank you. You're an incredible interviewer.
Oh,
I want to say, and I really enjoyed this. And you can call on me anytime I got a movie coming out, and you want to talk, or you just want to talk. This was very enjoyable, very in depth, well thought out. I appreciate that. Thank you so much,
dude. Thank you. That means a lot. Like we just like to have fun and talk film. So I'll call on you, and I promise we'll just nerd out. We'll talk about shit.
All right, and then you're gonna send me the link, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'll send you. Don't go anywhere just yet. I want to say some things to you once we're done here.
Right.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Luis Sequeria. That's the closest you're going to get to any story behind the scenes from the Reel Debaters on Nightmare Alley. If you have not watched the fucking film, go watch it. I think at this point when this is out, it is already on HBO Max. If it's not, it's just rent it, enjoy it, sit through it, watch it 3 times because you're going to miss a bunch of stuff the first time. It's just a fantastic film from a fantastic costumer. I will, as my promise, beginning of the year, I will avoid filling your ears with all of that stuff about selfless promotion. There's a bit at the end now. You can listen to it, and then you don't have to listen to me say it. So I have been Michael Petrow. My guest has been Luis Sequeria, costume designer, CAFTCAD member, Oscar nominated for Nightmare Alley. Watch all the movies, kids. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Luis.
See you later. Thank you.
Catch you on the flip side.
And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, another Reel Debaters production is in the can. Thank you so much for listening. If this is your first, second, third, fifth, 20th time, thank you so much. But thank you to the first timers, the ones here who pressed play for the first time and took a gamble on us. If you like what you heard today, the easiest thing to support the show is just to subscribe. Hit the like button, the follow button, whatever's in your podcast player. Make it so that we're always there every Wednesday for you, okay? That would be huge. If you want to stay in touch with us, if you want to follow us, there's a couple ways to do that. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. We're slowly migrating to YouTube by putting all of the things we've ever put on video onto that site. There's some surprises coming this year that happened a while ago, but I felt needed to be shared because they're part of the Debaterverse. So the YouTube page is coming. But if you want to follow us, it's at Reel Debaters Pod on Twitter and Instagram. It's the Reel Debaters Podcast on TikTok. All of the links, all of the one-click away things are in the show notes that you've just listened to. So if you want to follow us there, that would be great too, because then you get to stay in the know of all the things that we do and what we're going to try to do this year and what we've done in the past, so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's how you stay in touch with us. If you want to contact us, it's thereeldebaters@gmail.com. All the spelling for all these things is REEL to keep with the title of the show. So you can send an email to us there, request an episode, want to call out one of us for being a goofball. There's places to do that as well too, like the Reel Debaters website. You can email us, or you can go straight to the website, rate us on Podchaser, reeldebaters.ca. And if you really, really liked what you heard and you want to support the show in some fashion that requires you spending money, well, we got a couple ways for you to do that as well too. You can buy our merch at the Prop Shop. It's a store through Threadless, and it's online, and you can order stuff. We've got tons of stuff. We've got our Mass Debater wear there. It's our signature, original, and only line. It's our logo on everything. So you can support us that way. Go to the merch tab in the show notes. Or if you just got $1 and you're like, hey, I want to give you $1 and donate it to your cause, there is a tab in the show notes as well too that says donate to the Debaterverse, I think. And if you click on that, it takes you to a donation page where you can donate like $1, $3, and $5, and you'll get something for your $1, $3, or $5. Any more than that's just ludicrous. Luda. So yeah, that's just kind of what I wanted to tell you. That what I said at the end of the show. This is what you should listen to, because this is all about who we are, and now that we've gotten to where we are, we want to interact with you guys more. So these are the ways to do so. This is the way to stay in touch with us. Thank you to everybody again who's listened to the show. Again, you pressed play, you took a chance. That's cool. So without further ado, this is where I said I would talk more, so it's eggs on your face. No, I got nothing else for you. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week, and watch all them fucking movies. Bye-bye.